there's a lot of information here, but like, what's your next move? You know, like, it's not necessarily super easy to just download all these leads in maybe a CSV or something like that and have it in an organized manner. And then what? You know, are you going to call this company Christy Walker? What are you going to tell her? You know, what are you going to sell her? How do you know what her problems are? Now we're going to show you how you can use AI to basically expedite this full process. If you just want to download this full automation, feel free to join my free school community. Now we're able to deep research and find things you won't just find with Google Maps. Now you're not just calling a company cold. Press execute step, and then we go back to Notion. We should see the magic of N8N and automatically adding those to Notion for us. If you want to self-host, just join the school community and literally send me a DM. I'll literally walk you through it individually of how you can self-host so you don't have to pay N8N cloud fees. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use N8N to fully scrape Google Maps and then take all those leads, deep research every single one with this AI agent that essentially does company research. And all that research is going to help you get a full company snapshot, all types of signals from their website, of their social presence, any growth marketing and automation opportunities, along with the compatibility grade that actually shows you how good of a fit is this lead from Google Maps. So this specific example is for a growth marketing agency, but I'm going to show you how you can adapt that to whatever your niche and your industry is, whether you want to reach out to HVAC, whether you want to reach out to construction companies, lawyers, etc., all through Google Maps. And if you're not a pro with N8N, don't worry at all. I'm going to walk you through every single node super simply so that even a beginner can understand how to set this up. And it's really going to work great for you if you ever used make.com, Zapier, or any type of automation service. If you just want to download this full automation, feel free to join my free school community where it's at 107 members right now. Once I get to 150, I've already said this, the group is turning to paid because there will just be so much value in there, so many automations that I post in there every single day. So if you do just want to have a deep dive into N8N and learn how to make money from a full AI automation agency or just master N8N and AI agents, join my school community. So let me go ahead and actually run a demo of this so you can see this is actually working. This is actually running. All that we basically just changed the query and the location. Now I'm going to run the Google Map scraper that is running on Apify. I'll walk you through that in a second, but I just want to show you it's actually working. Just like that, we have 50 scraped realtors in Farmington Hills. You can see we got Remax. We got all the same information we would get on Google Maps. The category name, the address, the phone number. We even got the opening hours. We have how many reviews they have. And of course, we have where that whole at? So we have the website, address, street, city. Obviously, we want to store that stuff somewhere. So we're actually going to save all these to Notion, which if I just literally press execute step, and then we go back to Notion, we should see the magic of N8N and automatically adding those to Notion for us with the business name, the category, the phone number, the address, and the website if they have it. Probably saying to yourself, all right, bet, I have their phone number. I'm ready to cold call. I have their company name. I can find their emails. I'm ready to get at it. Well, what's your plan from there? How are you going to know what holes are in their business? How are you going to know what they're struggling with and what you can sell them? How are you going to figure out what your offer to them is going to be? These are two completely separate automations that run individually. But let me just show you a demo of the type of research. I'm just going to go ahead and say start automation. That's going to go ahead and run. All this is doing, you see it says lead database pull. It's just pulling in the leads from here so it knows which one to research. This is just looping. Only one item got brought in. It's going to loop through all 10 individually. This AI agent node, which is where most of the magic is happening. This is what's really controlling the research that's being done. I'm going to show you the full prompt during the tutorial in a second, but you can see this is a company research agent is using Perplexity to do like the up-to-date searching and browsing. And if we go in Notion right now, we should actually be able to see the live updating of the research going in there, the magic of N8N and automations. And you can see this is the full breakdown of what you're going to get. So now you're not just calling a company cold. You're calling a company knowing the snapshot of every single one, knowing their business type, knowing their target market. And if you're trying to do this for 250 companies, say goodbye to 250 hours of your time. But with N8N, obviously this can be done in a matter of minutes. So that's the power of using an AI agent and automation to do deep research on your leads before you reach out to them. So without further ado, let me go ahead and walk you through every single node quickly so you can see how to do it. Ooh, that's a really good point. Somebody said, why don't you start this from the beginning? You right. You right. First thing we're gonna do is set up the actual manual trigger, how this is gonna start. And sometimes you can just leave this there, but not this time. With this, we're actually gonna set one of the inputs for our next nodes. So for this, go ahead and map these in N8N so we don't have to come in Apify every single time and change the search term or change the location. And so now, so to do that, all we're gonna do is basically write our own JSON here. Curly bracket is the first thing, and we're gonna change this from name to query. And we're gonna change first item to whatever we're trying to search. I'll just say realtors. Always make sure these are both in quotes. These should turn blue. If they don't turn blue, you've done something wrong. And you're gonna change that location to whatever the city is. I'm gonna do Michigan. Shout out to the home squad. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to the, Now that those are changed, we're just gonna delete this code. That's garbage, we don't need that. We can delete this comma because we only need it after the first one. Delete that. Anytime you see a red dot near a line, that means there's an error there. No more errors. And if you're following along, you just wrote your first code. So congratulations. Now we're going to keep going. The next thing we're going to do is obviously scrape Google Maps. This is not a complex automation whatsoever. You're going to change this to post. And I knew this because you want to go to API and then API endpoints. And so this is going to tell you how you can run the actor, which is what they call all of their different scrapers. So what we want to do is we want to run the actor, but we also want to get the items. So all we're going to do is use these settings that they say. We're going to change. You saw before, this was at get, change that to post. And then for the URL, we're going to use this exact URL here. I'm going to plug that in to the URL. We don't need anything for authentication, nothing for query parameters, nothing for headers, but we do need something for the body. So now for this, we're going to change this to using JSON. And then now that we're in there, you're probably wondering, what JSON do I send? Back to Apify, let's get to it. They're going to tell you everything you need to do. All you're going to do is go here to JSON. This works for every single other scraper too. This is the body. This is what you're going to send in N8N. So all I'm going to do is copy all of this. I come in here, paste this into the body. But as you can see, what do we do with these? So as you can see, they have a different location in here from what I did before, and the search string in here for what I did before. So that's why that's already saying that in the body. And these also change dynamically. So if I type Dennis in here and I just type New York, if I go back to JSON, guess what's going to be in there? Exactly. So we want to be able to do that in N8N and change it whenever we want. So all we're going to do with that, and then I'm going to delete where their location is and then just plug mine right in there. Plug mine right up in that beat. And I seen that I in there, and I say they put it at the bottom. Love that for me. So you're going to go ahead, add this in here. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the search string. I'm going to take out theirs, add in mine. And you want to make sure it falls in those quotes too. And crazy enough, that's it. If I just press execute, before I go ahead and run it, you can choose how much to extract. So this one already has it set at 50 automatically. I'm going to change it to 10 because 50 takes a long time. I'm not even going to lie. So if you want to also extract reviews, you can do that too, or images, etc. Those things just have an additional cost. So it's not like it's major. It's literally like less than a cent. Now we're going to press the magic button, and now we're actively scraping from Google Maps. I could walk away. Just that easily, you've now officially scraped Google Maps. So if we go to table here, you can see all the same stuff we saw in the demo. The title, the category, the address. After you've done these two, obviously you want to store that somewhere. I'm going to store mine in Notion. And in order to store in Notion, you can obviously use Google Sheets. You can use whatever you want. In order to store there, you just have to create a database page, and To connect your Notion credential, it's super simple. All you have to do is go to settings and then go to connections. Why am I talking in such a high pitch? Go to settings, then connections. You can see I've done this a bunch of times. You're just gonna go all the way down to develop or manage integrations and click new integration. You're just gonna put in the name. I'm just gonna do 10 Hill Media Test. Associated workspace, chosen labs, you dig. Logo, this can be literally anything, don't worry about it whatsoever. This can be any picture. I'm gonna just use this one. Save, and then configure integration settings. Once you get here, they're gonna give you the secret. You know, once they start giving secrets, you already know. But yeah, as you can see, the Notion credential only needs that one internal integration secret. So you're just gonna grab that. And then that's how you connect your Notion API. Y'all are just developers today. Y'all connecting APIs left and right. So after you actually create your connection, you need to go inside whatever database you're using. You need to go to connections, add connection, and then find whatever the connection is that you just made, and it'll pop up in this menu here. And then now I can select from the list of all the different databases that I've connected to that connection. That's a lot of the word connection. So now all you're gonna do is basically map all of those different inputs to one of the columns in your Notion database. So if you're starting from zero, obviously you need to create a Notion database that has whatever title you want to represent each of the fields you're going to bring in from the Google Maps scraping. So you can bring in any of this you want to. I'm just choosing to only bring in the stuff that's relevant for me. So for that, that's the business name. So I'm going to drag this title into here. And that to me is also the category name. And I would just keep doing this for all the different columns that I want. Address and website. Boom. So there we go. So now we're going to run this, and I know for a fact we're going to run into an error when we run this, but you guys need to also see this because you will run into the same error too. So I'm going to show you how to debug it in real time. So if I just ran this straight up, let's see what happens. So it's going to start running. And if we go back to our leads, it might even start bringing some of those in there. Yep. You can see Gross Point Board of Realtors. That's a new one that just came in. But you can see we have an error, just like we said. So the biggest thing for Notion is that it's not going to like empty fields. So as you can see, Notion does not want empty strings. So what you're going to do in those expressions is basically just use these kind of other options to accommodate for that. And what it's basically just saying is enter the category name. And if there's no category name, just enter uncategorized. So I'm going to go ahead and just paste that in there. But I know for a fact some people don't have their website. Some people don't have a phone number. So I'm just going to go ahead and anticipate that early. And for phone number, I'm going to do the exact same thing. So let's go ahead and execute that now. And as you can see, if we come back into the Notion, these start coming in quicker. You can see the one that had the problem. That one was uncategorized, but now all the rest. So this is just one part of the automation like we saw before. This is just part one, step one, that is scraping for you. But obviously leads are great. We love leads, but we need more info on those leads so we can cold call them, we can cold email them, we can cold DM them with intel, with an offer. And we want to be able to figure out that offer automatically. So let's go ahead and build the automation that does that. So first things first, we can't do the same trigger twice. So I can't add another of these manual triggers. So I'm going to go ahead and add a chat trigger for this next one. And I'm just going to connect that to a Notion trigger because now I need to pull the leads from Notion. So N8N can take every single one and research them. So I'm going to go to Notion, and this time I'm going to go to get many database pages. So from here, we already connected the API, so we can easily come in here and select the database we were using. And then for filter, this is going to be super useful for you. So obviously you don't want to create duplicates of research. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to come in here, create a status column, so you can see which one has had the research done and which one hasn't. If you go back to the filter here, you can filter by build manually, go to all filters. You don't just want it to match any in case you have two of them. And then for the condition, just like in make, if you would add a filter, you do that right here. So you would go choose the column status and then make sure it equals not started. If I just go ahead and start this automation now, start automation. Why am I screaming? Why am I screaming? If I just go ahead and start this automation just by typing in there, you can see it brings in 10 items. So obviously we don't want to overload our AI agent that's going to be doing the research with, 10 different companies. So that's why we need to include this loop node, which will split it in batches. So I'm just going to delete this and delete that. And then, dang, y'all took away the footer. I was about to say, what are we doing? So now the next thing here, so now we're going to build the AI agent. I made an entire video breaking down everything about AI agents, the definition, the components inside of them, the types of them, how you can create your own in a different video. Go check that video out if you're just curious about AI agents even a little bit. I'm going to change this connected chat to define below so I can write my own user message the same way you would write a prompt to GPT. So for creating prompts for your AI agent, I always go to a large language model like GPT. So I literally just asked it, how should I set up my system message and the user message to deep research each company to look for indicators. And you're actually going to want to spell out your indicators. You're going to want to say, I want to see, what does their website look like? What does their LinkedIn look like? Analyze their digital footprint. This is where you go in and adjust it based on your niche. So these are the key indicators that I found after talking with this company, this client that I had. They wanted to see, do they have a website? What's their social media looking like? Are they running ads? Do they have Google reviews? Just their general digital presence. I wanted it to be more detailed. So I had already in the past created a prompt for this deep research, and I've actually created a full video on this before. That's why I asked for more detail, etc. Make it more elaborate so that I can take in inputs, because you want to make sure, like this user message here, it wasn't anticipating anything from Notion. You want to make sure that it includes the JSONs of the inputs from Notion. So you can directly map and say, here's the company name, here's the category, here's the phone, here's all the things I found from Google Maps. Based on this, do your research, do your analysis. Like for example, this company name is Home Lending Pro. Imagine if there was no, website, no address, anything like that, and they were just searching the web for Home Lending Pro. They're going to find 100 different companies with that same name. So you got to give it these inputs. And other than that, I mapped out the task step by step in terms of the company snapshot. I definitely wanted that. I wanted to know what this company was all about, an overview, etc. The website and digital signals. So for them, where is their website at? Is it or is it like that? And of course, a social online presence. I'm not going to go through line by line of this. If you want this full prompt, just check the school community. And then of course, for the output, I made sure that it returns a clean Notion ready markdown. I'm going to show you markdown format in a second. You probably already know what it is, but I'm going to show you how we can officially translate this output into that in Notion. And then of course, constraints. You always, when you're working with the AI agent, want to include specific guardrails of how you want things outputted and what constraints you want, because you're going to see if this is the first AI agent you're building, they can go rogue. So you want to establish control. But as you can see, there's no input data here. All I got to do to change that is run this. Before I do that, I'm going to just pin these two nodes. If you're not familiar with pinning, just going to press the letter P. What it does is that it keeps the data pinned there, so you don't have to keep running it over and over. Like if I just press play right then before pinning it, it would run that again. So you can see why that could get very annoying if you have a very token intensive node. I'm gonna run this loop, and as you can see, if we go back in the AI agent, everything is there for us. So now all that should be already mapped, but if it wasn't, all you're gonna do is just drag this in here, and it's gonna dynamically, from every single Notion page or row, dynamically add whatever the name, category, phone, address, and website is. You can see it's already doing it. So for this person, we have his name, his category, and his phone. Don't have his address or website, say less, doesn't matter. Which honestly should come up in the analysis. It should tell us there was no website, or maybe Google Maps wasn't listing the website, but there's another one. So now we're able to deep research and find things you won't just find with Google Maps. You also notice there's this compatibility grade in here. And if you want to change the criteria of how, who gets an A, who gets a B, this is where you change it at. So for them, they wanted mid-sized agencies. That's who they felt was most compatible with them. This is where you would change that. If you want like a solopreneur or an enterprise client, you would change the grading accordingly. So now we have that. If you did want to include a system message, you're just going to come down here to add option and system message, but I do not need one for this case because the user message is like that. So now we have our AI agent, but of course it can't run alone. All we did was plug in a prompt. There's no intelligence model attached to it yet that can do any of the actions that will actually carry out the research. So that's what we do right now. So for the chat model, which is basically taking the input from the AI agent and then coming up with prompts to talk to other tools, we're going to use OpenAI for that, just because I don't need to be too complex. This isn't too crazy of a workload. I'm going to use GPT-4.1 mini just to keep it easy on my tokens and usage. I don't want to use GPT-5. Lord knows, the amount of time and tokens that would take, especially for GPT-5 thinking. And since this is like a deep research bot, I'm going to add a simple memory here. Memory is super important when you're building like intricate workflows where you want N8N to remember what you were prompting. You don't want it to duplicate over itself, or you want to input your own knowledge base. So that's something you don't want to sleep on. So I'll include a full video that breaks down memory in the description. But for now, all I'm going to use is simple memory, which will work for you in most cases. And you can see the context window length is just asking for how many past interactions the model will receive as context. And so in terms of the tool, this is the tool that will actually be doing the research. So for me, I'm going to choose Perplexity just because Perplexity is great with up-to-date web browsing, up-to-date citations. So to me, there's really no better tool to do research. And before I run this, you obviously need to connect your credential to Perplexity. So for that, all you're going to want to do is go to your account and API, and then there should be a section for API keys. If you haven't done this yet, you may need to go to API group and create that, and then you'll get access to your API keys. I'm going to use Sonar Pro. Deep research is amazing, but you'll find that Sonar Pro is essentially just as good for a lower amount of tokens. So for this test example, I'm going to use Sonar Pro, but feel free to test. Go crazy. You're going to do this, and then for the text, usually this is where you will enter the prompt. But since this is an AI agent, they're autonomous. They act for us. They think of prompts for us. So all I need to do here is click this, which will let the model define the parameter. Let the model define the text. I'm going to do the same thing here. So now I built an AI agent that will autonomously create prompts with the model and use tools for us. So one thing I ran into that you might also run into is the session key not being here. So instead of me just tunneling, panicking, I just went to the documentation and I saw that essentially some of the common issues that happen is in most cases, the session ID is automatically retrieved from the on chat message, but you may run into an error with the phrase no session ID. As you can see, if I go back to my chat, there is no output here. But as you can see, what you can do is for testing purposes, you can just use my_test_session. So I'm just going to do that. So I'm going to go back here, define it below, just add that. And now I'm going to rerun my AI agent. And now the simple memory is working perfectly fine. So documentation, read, y'all. So now our AI agent is running, doing that research for us, using the tool of Perplexity to do the research. And let's see what it comes up with. So that ran successfully, which we love to see. And the output, as you can see, is that full research brief. Company snapshot, everything we asked for is in here in a matter of seconds. Deep research lead in a matter of seconds. Imagine if you had to sit down and do that yourself. Now, obviously, you can see this looks a little bit nasty. We got these /ns, we've got these lines here. So we not only want to make sure that this looks good, but it also gets delivered into each Notion row so we can see it easily in Notion. So now what we're going to do is we need to convert basically this output into readable paragraphs for Notion. And what we're going to do for this, don't be scared of this whatsoever. You guys know GPT exists. Y'all know vibe coding exists, right? So for this, what I'm going to do is first just give a description, because I know I'm giving this automation away. I want people to see what each line of code is. So the first thing we're going to do is take the output field from the AI agent. And for that, all we're going to do is basically define the variable of text. And all we're going to do for that is basically pull up this node here through code. The next thing we're going to do is split each thing by double line breaks. The double line breaks are shown by these \ns here. So I'm going to define that chunks is just the text split. And now the last thing we need to do is just return each chunk as a new item, returning the chunks. And there we go for that one. So now if we, first of all, let's pin this so we don't have to run this AI agent all the way over. You can see it took 8,000 tokens. Don't just want to run that again casually. Gonna pin that, and let's run this code node, make sure that's running successfully. And as you can see, it went from 1 item to 21. So there's 21 chunks or paragraphs that we're now outputting from that. We're gonna go ahead and pin that there. And now obviously we wanna put this back in the Notion. So for that, we're gonna go grab this Notion. So in Notion, their terminology for blocks is basically just anything that lives inside of here. And we wanna include and type things in here because there's no character limit. In N8N's language, we wanna append a block. So that's what we do. For this node, you can see the resources block. We're gonna append after. And the URL here, we're just gonna get that from what we previously did before. As you can see, this is the URL for every single Notion row. So we add that in there. Bingo, we love seeing green. So now for the actual block that we're gonna add, we already have that covered. It's a paragraph type. You know, obviously it's not a heading, etc. But if you did wanna do that, that's how you do it. You take this chunk here, you can see there's 21 of them. This is just the first one that's being previewed. Add that in there. Let's go ahead and run this to see if there's any errors. Not seeing any errors. And if we go to our Notion to Ray, we should already see, yep, and it's actively adding in each of the different chunks one at a time. So now as you can see, successfully getting all that output from the AI agent, we can see that the type of company that he is, he's a licensed real estate agent. We can see his target market, which is crazy leverage to be able to have on a call of like, hey, I know who you're targeting. And we can see, just like how there was no website in the input, he does not have a website. And we can verify that because it researched for us. It searched the web for us. So we can call him and be like, hey, we know you don't have a website. All the different insight that we need on autopilot. It told us about his social and online presence. It told us about his website. It even tells us what growth marketing and automation opportunities we can pitch as an offer. So there we go. We literally just created an automatic offer creator for every single lead, because every lead should not be getting the same offer from you. Everybody has different needs, and now you can actually serve businesses the best. You can see it even gave the grade in terms of how good of a fit it is. This one is a B. There's been some A's I've seen. There's been some C's. So now rather than thinking I have to call everybody on my list every single day, you can just wake up and say, I'm only calling A's today. I'm only calling B's today. So here is more than enough context, research, information going into a cold call. You can see I've also included outreach hooks too. I noticed you don't have a website. I saw that your social media isn't active. So there's no more guessing. This is no more guesswork. This is walking you to having all the information you need to be able to close more leads on cold calls, because you can speak to exactly the problems they're going to. So now you're probably still wondering, okay, this is great, but how do we get it to do it over and over again? And to do that, we want to first make sure it doesn't do the same one that it did. And so for that, we need to automatically make sure that when it basically comes in here and does the research, it's marking him as done. So in order to do that, we just got to go in here to Notion again. And this time we can do update a database page. We come in here. Once again, we enter that database URL that we got from the first Notion node. Just going to enter that in here. Bam. And for the property, this is where you enter the actual column you want to change. So I'm going to come in here, find status. And then now we're going to change that. We're going to update that database page to done. So now if I pin this so it doesn't obviously add all the information again, and then run this, for some reason it like takes a while, even though it's literally just changing it to like one thing. But if I come back, that's now changed to done. And since he's marked done, he won't be pulled again by the automation. Instead of just ending this automation, once it gets to this point, we want to loop it. So all we need to do is connect this back to that loop node. And as you can see, we got a nice, what the hell was I doing? And so now as you can see, we have a nice loop that will go to all of these different nodes. So now I'm just going to show you super quickly what it looks like when it's running through. I'm going to save that, and then I'm going to start the automation again. So now you can see it brought in another 10, and this time it probably did not bring in Ray. You can see the full list of who are brought in with the table. Yep, so Ray was not brought in because he's done. And you can see it's going ahead and doing the research for us already. So, oh, already finished that one. Already passing the chunks through to Notion. So actually, if we go to Notion, we should be able to see. This is my favorite part of the process, to be honest. This is my favorite part, just seeing it added in automatically. Nothing better, honestly, just to see a computer doing the work for you. That's why we all get into this, isn't it? And as you can see, it already looped to the next item. You can see it switched from 1 to 2 items there, and it'll just keep going through all 10. So if I set that to 50, if I set it to 100, as long as you have these funded, as long as you have your OpenAI account funded and your Perplexity account funded, it'll just keep running through and doing deep research while you're doing whatever you want to do. So that's all for this video. I hope you guys were able to actually see the power of AI agents, the power of N8N, and are actually able to walk through this with me. N8N Cloud does a free trial for 14 days, so I'll put a link in the description so you can go ahead and do it. If you want to self-host, just join the school community and literally send me a DM. I'll literally walk you through it individually of how you can self-host so you don't have to pay N8N Cloud fees. But other than that, if you guys have any other questions, let me know in the comments.